in light of everything that's happened with Disney and the Sony situation, I decided to take a break on talking about Indiana Jones and talk about one of my other favorite movies, the Spider-Man movies. Since there has been so many Spider-Man movies, and so many of them are perceived as bad, and they just are, then we need to talk about what makes a good Spider-Man movie. For this, we're going to have to cover which Spider-Man movies are good and which ones are bad. So of course this is purely my opinion, but also my opinion is fact, so if you disagree with it, shut up in the comments. Across all this time, there have been 7 Spider-Man movies, and in my opinion, 4 of them are good, and only 3 of them are amazing. Well, actually, only 2 of them are amazing. With covering to see what makes a good Spider-Man movie, we're also going to have to talk about what makes a bad Spider-Man movie. And luckily, there's been enough of both of those I can judge. Problem is, I'm going to have to watch those. Here's all the Spider-Man movies. Here's a chart of the good ones to the bad ones. And I know what you're thinking. Jolly Leprechaun, you can't put the MCU Spider-Mans at the end. Yes, I can't, and screw you. We'll get into why those ones are at the end, but really, they're just terrible. Alright, now let's get into what makes a good Spider-Man movie. But first, we gotta watch them. The first 2 movies are an obvious example. If you let a director do what he wants and don't get the company involved in it, with the director that actually cares about the product, something beautiful will happen. Of course, there's the common complaints about these movies of Peter Parker looking like he's freaking 30, and of course, Spider-Man doesn't do any quips, and then the natural web shooters instead of him making them. But I don't think any of that matters when you get this right. The story is the most important part of your movie. You could have the most likable characters and the best actors, and if the story is not good, then it'll be a terrible movie. To make a good story, you have to first understand what a good Spider-Man story is. What are Spider-Man stories about? And the answer to that is they're about the characters and Peter Parker.
Who am I? You sure you want to know? The story of my life is not for the faint of heart. If somebody said it was a happy little tale, if somebody told you I was just your average, ordinary guy, not a care in the world, somebody lied.
Peter Parker is one of the most relatable superheroes out there. He is a minor superhero, he doesn't do things on high levels like the Avengers, and he's just doing his best to protect the people he loves in the city. He doesn't get thanks for it. His life sucks because he's Spider-Man. He could have made it 100 times better if he just quit being Spider-Man. But he's a good person, so he keeps going. Peter Parker is also the most relatable character out there. He's not cool, he's not popular, you're supposed to be able to see yourself in him. He's not good looking. He is just a kid who is trying to get through school and is super shy, can't even talk to people. But then when he puts on the mask, when he's hiding behind that, much like people do on the internet, he's able to release his thoughts and tell jokes and fight crime and do what he wants to do. Spider-Man almost never ends up on top. He always defeats a villain, but he always loses. Within the first movie, he loses not only his uncle, but then he kind of found Norman Osborn as his new father figure, and he loses him too. And then through that, he also loses the trust of his best friend. Within the first hour of Spider-Man 2, he loses connections with Harry Osborn. He loses Mary Jane because she's getting married to Norman Osborn's son. He loses his normal pizza job, so when he has to go back to working for the Daily Bugle, and the only way he can get money is slandering his own name as Spider-Man.
Peter, don't tell Harry.
I mean, his life freaking sucked. Like, but all of it's because he's being Spider-Man. And this movie asks, why would he be Spider-Man? And this is one of the ones with a happy ending, but still known as one of the best, and one of my favorite movies of all time. Then, only 2 or 3 years after Spider-Man 3 flopped, they decided to reboot Spider-Man. Because Sony had a contract with Marvel, they had to make 6 Spider-Man movies in a certain span of time, and they were running out of time. They recast Andrew Garfield and get another amazing director, Mark Webb. Mark Webb was the perfect choice because he knows how to write people so well. Honestly though, all the scenes in this, they look like Spider-Man, and all the interactions with Peter Parker, Aunt May, Ben Parker, Gwen Stacy, they're all perfect. Even him with Flash is like, it feels like a teen drama, and in the best way possible.
Hey, Parker.
Not today, Flash.
Hey, come on, man. I don't just want to talk. Feels better, right? Look, your uncle died. I'm sorry. I get it. I'm sorry. Okay.
We all know this movie has a problem. I mean, freaking what movie doesn't? And, I mean, this series only lasted 2 movies after the second one was terrible, but still, it's amazing what he did with the first one. And not a lot of people admit it, but this is a good movie.
Your hands behind your head. Now! Parker.
It's headed to Oscorp, and your daughter's there right now.
You gotta let me go.
With all that in mind, with all that I just said makes a good Spider-Man movie. The MCU Spider-Man, Tom Holland, just threw that all away. Tell me one thing Spider-Man loses in these movies. I guess he lost Liz, but then by the end of the movie he was already with MJ. And that's it. And you hear the common thing, well, all the other Spider-Men didn't look like a teenager. Tom Holland looks like a teenager. Yes, he did. He also looked like someone that should be on the cover of a magazine and not the nerdy kid. He tries his best and he's a good actor, but the script and the story just don't work for Spider-Man. I tried watching this movie and I literally fast forward through some scenes just to get this movie over with because it hurts me because I love Spider-Man and I want to see it done well. And we finally got him linked with other heroes and it was such a letdown. He loses nothing and it's just such a weak Peter Parker. Like, they focused on Spider-Man way more than they should have, and then they didn't even do that well. Because when he gets on the mask, he's the same person. He hides behind nothing. And he doesn't do quips. That's what people complain about the first movie, and they say this one's good. And I frankly don't understand it. But the people say, like, oh, well, it's this version of the character. Well, this version of the character is literally just a less complex version, and a less good version, in my opinion. The only thing he has for him is his looks.